Hope everyone's having a good Easter weekend. I've headed up to Grange Moor. Some of you may know it for the roundabout that's just behind me. You can see Emily Moor Master in the background, but Grange Moor is a village with a plentiful history, an interesting history, and it's also the start and finish of one of the Kirkburton Parish Walks, Beaumont's Bolt. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the history behind that, so come along with me and let's have a little explore. One of the parts of history in Grange Moor's past that really caught my attention was Christmas Eve 1944, when a stray German bomb hit the village, destroying many buildings, yet astonishingly killing nobody. It created a crater in a nearby field that was 33 feet in diameter and 5 feet deep, so you can picture that was a pretty big bomb. Killed nobody, but the community pulled together, as they so often do in the Huddersfield area, and made sure that no one spent Christmas Day alone, and nobody was empty-handed on Christmas Day either. Now, there was an old woman staying at the New Inn. More recently, that was the Indian and Bangladeshi takeaway and restaurant Grameen Spice, which is now closed down. She was staying at the New Inn. She had a pair of false teeth that were damaged during the bombing. Luckily, a local handyman was on hand to fix her up a makeshift pair of false teeth using fuse wire. So you can see that this community is one that is built on perseverance, community spirit, and lots of Yorkshire grit and resilience. And this rather peculiar structure stood behind me is known as the Dumb Steeple. There are a couple of these not too far away in the local Huddersfield area. There's also one down at Cooper Bridge. Now, it's very debated what these rather strange monuments were actually for. This one in particular, though, what can be said is that it says it was rebuilt in 1766 by Richard H. Beaumont. We'll get onto the Beaumonts in a minute, but the Beaumonts were basically a wealthy, rich family, a local family who came over here to England during the Norman invasion. And this possibly marked a dividing line, an ancient dividing line between the Beaumont family's estate and the estate of the Kay family of Grange, which was also around here at the time. So it was this kind of monument is meant to commemorate something that was potentially there in the past. Not only does this walk have some great views over towards Dewsbury and Murfield and beyond over towards Leeds, but it has a lot of greenery. There's lots of fabulous woodland around here. You can hear the birds singing. There's lots and lots of open countryside right on your doorstep. And Grange Moor is perhaps an area of Huddersfield slash Wakefield, I guess, that not many people know about as having so much natural beauty. But as you can see, as I can vouch for, it is really green and it is really beautiful. It's a pretty impressive view out there. You can see all the way down to Murfield, down there, and Battyford. But on the very furthest hills, you're actually starting to see the Yorkshire Dales. So really are some big views around here, up at Grange Moor and towards Whitley as well. Some of these villages that we're exploring on this walk are, they're really ancient settlements. We're about to see something quite spectacular now, so brace yourself. Wait. I've got a story to tell you. This building behind me is known as the Temple, or by some locally as Black Dick's Tower. But who was Black Dick? Black Dick, ladies and gentlemen, was Sir Richard Beaumont, first cousin to Queen Elizabeth I and one of the most influential aristocrats in the land. He was born in 1574 and died in 1631. He was the Baronet of Whitley nearby, so in this area, and he was an MP for Pontefract as well in the late 1620s. There are many suggestions for why he may have been known as Black Dick. One suggestion comes from James I's nicknaming him as Black Dick of the North, a nickname which probably came from the dark colour of his hair. Another suggestion is that he was a highwayman, a debtor, a man who gambled away the Beaumont family fortunes that had been in the ancestral home since the Norman invasion. The final piece, the final suggestion for where Black Dick's nickname comes from is a suggestion that this is the place, this is the site where Richard Beaumont practiced black magic. And that it's said that on the 5th of July every year, the headless ghost of Sir Richard Beaumont appears before anyone's eyes who dares to come here to the temple. But let's take a step back, because as much as I'd love a ghost story at Easter, given the story of Jesus' resurrection, it's quite unlikely. And not because I don't believe in the supernatural even, but because this building, as many of you architectural experts out there will be able to tell me, that this was built in the 18th century and it was designed by Capability Brown. This was part of the large Beaumont family estate with Whitley Hall that was just down the hill between where I am now, just above Kirkburton and Lepton. And this was probably used as a summer house, this place. So it's highly unlikely, given that it was built in the 18th century, that Sir Richard Beaumont, born in the 16th century, would have been practicing black magic there. Unless you believe in the supernatural, and unless you think it's his ghost that's practicing the black magic. And for those of you like me who like to be extra pedantic, it doesn't make any sense that Richard Beaumont's head is in his hands, that he's a headless ghost when he appears on the 5th of July, because he never had his head cut off. That was one of his relatives, in fact, in the 1340s, in a battle known as the Ellen Feud. That was Robert de Beaumont. So, in fact, it's highly unlikely that a headless ghost walks around this exact site, although I do feel a little bit creeped out by the fact that there's a hole in the ground just behind me. It's a little bit spooky, I have to say. As you can see, the tower itself, the temple, is quite ruined now. However, some of the walls are still fairly intact. There used to be a dome above here, but that's collapsed over the years. There are photos with the dome on it, so it's collapsed fairly recently. But it's one of the only lasting bits of the Beaumont estate here at Whitley that still exist. This track leads downhill towards the former site of Whitley Hall, the family home of the Beaumonts. However, it's a private track, so we're not going to head down there now, and it's also not on the route of the Beaumont's Bolt Walk, so for the sake of the video, we won't go down there either. However, it has an interesting history. The Beaumont family actually lived there until 1917, and in the early 1920s, the hall was sold on to another owner who tried to restore aspects of Whitley Hall that had fallen into disrepair. However, by 1950, he'd sold the site onto an open cast mining company. So there's absolutely no kind of remains today of Whitley Hall, which is kind of a shame from a historical point of view, although we do have these photos which are available to find online as well as in this video. There is actually just down the hill from that a campsite which is often used by local scout groups. But other than that, there's absolutely no real legacy of the Whitley Beaumont estate. Now, I know this has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour of the Beaumont's Bolt Walk, but I didn't want to spoil too many surprises for you. If you wanted to get out there and put your walking boots on or your trainers if it's dry like today and have an explore yourself, I didn't want to ruin any surprises for you. So yes, this has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but we've learned a lot about the Beaumont family estate, the Whitley Beaumont site, about a bit of a ghost story as well, a ghost tale. And we've learned a little bit about how communities come together in times of hardship, with the example of the World War II bombing in Grange Moor. So I hope you found it as fascinating as I have. I'm going to go and head off, make sure I finish the walk before the sun sets, so I can go and have my tea in time, and have a fantastic Easter, everyone. And by the way, if you see the Easter Bunny around anywhere, a word from me. The Easter Bunny's been a little bit thin on the ground with some Easter eggs for me over the last couple of years. So just tell him that, I've been a good boy, and I quite like a few more. Anyway, see you all soon. Hit the subscribe button. Any comments you have, any questions, drop them in the comments below. And yeah, see you very soon for another edition of Ted's Takes.